Society, culture, and especially Hollywood have sold you a narrative of nobility, of instant family, of being the hero who steps up. They frame it as a test of character. What you are actually considering is adopting a pre-existing economic structure built on scarcity, necessity, and non-reciprocal obligation. You look at her and see the possibility of connection. What you fail to calculate is the strategic mechanism that has activated this sudden seriousness. When a woman has children, the stakes of mate selection fundamentally change. You are not being chosen for your charisma. You are being selected for your capacity to provide, protect, and absorb pre-existing burdens. And if you cannot recognize the brutal economic reality concealed beneath the romantic veneer, you are about to walk directly into 8 of the most expensive and psychologically damaging traps known in modern relationship dynamics. This is not judgment. This is an audit of your future solvency, backed by data on female psychological drivers and the strategic maneuvering inherent in modern resource acquisition. Before we dissect the cold, hard numbers and the specific psychological manipulations that drain your future, let me anchor this conversation in our shared reality. Tell me right now, in the comments below, what city are you watching this from? Where are you building your future and preparing to defend your resources? When a single mother enters the dating marketplace, she is operating under an intense time constraint and a massive resource deficit. The clock she is listening to is not just the biological clock of fertility, which may or may not be relevant depending on her age, but the developmental clock of her children. She needs a provider now. This necessity forces a dramatic recalibration of her hypergamic priorities. This is the psychological context that sets the stage for the financial traps. The stability you represent is her ultimate goal, and this goal will strategically override genuine romantic desire, deep-seated compatibility, and even honesty about past relationship patterns. Studies in mate selection confirm this shift. Women with dependent children prioritize stability, financial capacity, and commitment indicators significantly higher than childless women of the same age. And the key psychological trap here is the blurring of the lines between providing for the woman and providing for her children. They are inextricably linked, and often the financial demands are non-negotiable, irrespective of your actual marital status. Unlike a relationship where financial investment grows organically as the partnership deepens, dating a single mother immediately requires the male partner to allocate his resources toward existing liabilities. These liabilities are not optional. They are the expenses of raising children: housing, education, healthcare, extracurricular activities, and most critically, time. Every dollar you spend on a shared experience or a gift for her child is immediately a subsidy for the family unit, reducing her personal resource burden and freeing up her limited capital. She has dependence, which inherently creates a higher barrier to exit for you, the provider. If you begin investing your time and resources into the welfare and comfort of her children, withdrawing becomes significantly more difficult, both emotionally and socially. You are being conditioned to accept responsibility for a unit you did not create, often without the corresponding legal rights or protections. You are placed in a high-obligation, low-authority role. The culture tells you that you are getting an instant family. This is sold as an emotional benefit. The reality is that you are acquiring an instant, unfunded liability. Your free time, which is essential for your own career growth, fitness, hobbies, and maintenance of your social network, immediately becomes subject to the children's schedules. You are not only financially required to contribute, but logistically required. This time debt is a massive, unquantified financial trap that limits your future earnings potential. Every hour spent driving a child to soccer practice or attending a school function is an hour stolen from your self-development, an hour you could have been using to increase your own value. A single mother often brings significant emotional baggage into the relationship, stemming from the circumstances of her previous relationships, the necessary strain of single parenthood, and the psychological impact on the children involved. You are expected to not only be the financial backbone, but also the emotional stabilizer for this unit. This emotional labor, acting as the mediator, the conflict resolver, the therapist for a child traumatized by the biological father's absence or instability, is exhausting and non-compensatory. This mental taxation has a direct, quantifiable impact on your performance and overall life satisfaction, which is the definition of a hidden financial and personal cost. The entire dynamic is predicated on the woman's strategic need for resource provisioning. You are fulfilling a necessary function that the biological father either failed to provide or is incapable of providing adequately. This distinction is critical because it defines the non-reciprocal nature of the future financial traps. You are being chosen for your predictability, which is the antithesis of the exciting men she may have prioritized during her non-parenting years. This predictability is precisely what makes you a reliable cash flow source. She may resent settling for stability over passion, projecting this dissatisfaction onto you through criticism of your finances, your job, or your ambitions. Meanwhile, you may resent the constant obligation and the lack of genuine reciprocal desire that should accompany the massive commitment you are making. Society has established a safety net and legal structure, child support, alimony, division of assets, that heavily favors the resource-receiving partner upon dissolution. When dating a single mother, you are entering a relationship where the perceived risk of divorce for you is exponentially higher, and the financial cost of that failure is catastrophic, because you will be paying for children who are not biologically yours, or increasing the standard of living for her and her children, which you will then be legally obligated to maintain post-separation. This foundation, built on biological urgency, strategic mate selection, and the silent transfer of immense logistical and emotional debt, is the essential backdrop against which the 8 specific financial traps operate. They are not accidental. They are systemic risks inherent in entering a unit that already operates at a structural deficit. The man who ignores this foundation of psychological and economic necessity is the man who finds himself financially gutted years down the line, realizing he was a necessary solution, not a cherished partner. Part 2 of this analysis will pull back the curtain on the specifics. We will break down the precise financial mechanisms that turn a seemingly loving relationship into a resource drain. You need to recognize that every decision you make in this context, from meeting the children to agreeing to move in together to purchasing a joint asset, is a legally and financially binding step toward increasing your liability. Most men enter these relationships blind, driven by emotion, only to discover too late that they have signed a contract where only they have skin in the game. You are expected to bear 100% of the risk while having zero control over the foundational structure of the unit. The truth needs a rallying cry. Right now, drop the most powerful, non-negotiable phrase you would use to warn a man about these hidden costs. Your future demands clarity. Lock in your subscription to this channel because we are the only source giving you the unvarnished data required for high-stakes decision-making. You have seen the foundation of the psychology and the urgent resource need that drives this dynamic. Next time, the calculus becomes cold, hard data. Prepare yourself for the definitive audit of the 8 financial traps. You cannot afford to miss it. In the first part of this analysis, we laid the groundwork for understanding that this dynamic fundamentally shifts the man from being a chosen partner to being a strategically recruited provider for a pre-established ecosystem. The first few traps demonstrated how the man inevitably assumes costs related to past decisions, from emotional baggage to physical maintenance. Now, we must move into the most aggressive and pervasive financial hazards, the ones that guarantee your investment is perpetually subordinate to the needs of the children and the psychological demands of the mother. The ultimate financial trap in this scenario is rooted in a psychological phenomenon, the expectation of lifestyle maintenance and upward trajectory. If you think you are simply dating a woman, you are gravely mistaken. This is a perspective that requires total honesty, not sentimentality. Look around your immediate environment right now. Understand that in every major metropolitan area, the dynamics we are about to discuss are happening daily, determining the financial fate of men who confuse romance with resource management. Let us continue with the remaining and arguably most devastating financial traps uncovered by extensive studies on blended families and post-divorce female psychology. A man naturally wants to impress a woman and provide for her. However, when dating a single mother, that provision is not judged against zero, but against the combined financial baseline of her past life. If the biological father has been inconsistent, the mother often compensates by idealizing or chasing a higher standard of living, frequently funded by debt or reliance on family. When the new man enters the picture, his primary unspoken financial obligation is to not only match that baseline, but to significantly exceed it. If the children went to public school, you are subtly pressured to consider private tutoring or specialized camps. If they lived in a modest apartment, the mother will begin talking about a house with a yard, your house, purchased with your capital, requiring your financial stability. For the man, this means constant, incremental financial pressure. Your definition of a comfortable life must be instantly redefined to accommodate 2, 3, or more people who are not related to you, yet whose expectations are entirely tethered to your performance. This isn't dating, it's funding expansion. Your personal financial goals, retirement, investment, or saving for your own future are systematically delayed or repurposed to maintain her existing lifestyle. While not strictly a cash expenditure, time is the most valuable and non-renewable resource a high-value man possesses. Dating a single mother extracts this resource at an accelerated rate, and it is never compensated. When you date a woman with children, you are immediately enrolled without interview or choice as a secondary childcare provider. You will spend evenings, weekends, and vacation time performing duties that prevent you from focusing on your career, your fitness, your social network, or your personal relaxation. Research into relationship dynamics highlights that single mothers often prioritize men who provide relief and structure over men who provide mere excitement. Your stability is valuable not just for money, but for your predictable presence. The hours you spend at soccer practice, helping with homework, or staying in on a Saturday night because the babysitter canceled are hours you cannot spend networking, developing a side hustle, investing in continued education, or simply recovering the mental energy required to perform at a high level in your career. The man's potential for upward mobility is significantly slowed, sometimes halted entirely, by the absorption of these uncompensated labor obligations. You are exchanging your future financial potential for domestic utility in her present life. You lose both the money and the non-renewable time. In almost every scenario involving a single mother, there is a biological father, even if he is absent, intermittent, or underperforming financially. When the biological father fails to deliver consistent child support, or disappoints the children with cheap gifts or cancelled plans, the mother's psychological defense mechanism is often to subtly pressure the current partner, you, to fill that void and fill it better. Your generosity is weaponized against the absence of the ex. If the ex sends cheap sneakers, you are expected to buy the expensive ones to show them what a real man looks like, or make up for their disappointment. You are constantly competing with a ghost, or worse, competing with a financially unstable man whose failures drive up your cost of participation. Furthermore, even if the biological father is financially stable, the mother often uses the new relationship to elevate her perceived value, expecting the new man's spending to surpass the child support income, proving that she has moved on to a better provider. This constant comparison and expectation of financial overperformance ensures that your resource output is perpetually driven by external, competitive, and highly emotional factors, rather than a healthy, shared financial plan. Your resources are being used to soothe past injuries and manage present status anxiety. This is the ultimate long-term financial trap reserved for men who commit to marriage. Your income instantly becomes marital income, subject to the legal scrutiny of child support calculations, even if those children are not biologically yours. If you earn significantly more than the biological father, your income can be used as a rationale for increasing the standard of living expected of the mother, potentially complicating future custody or support disputes, drawing your finances into legal battles that are not yours. More critically, in the event of divorce, your assets, accumulated stability, savings, and retirement become subject to division. While you will not be required to pay child support to the children, unless you legally adopted them, which is the nuclear version of this trap, you will pay spousal support, alimony, to the mother, which is calculated based on the marital standard of living, a standard that included the cost of raising her children on your dime. But the inheritance hazard is the one that destroys multi-generational wealth. When a man without children marries a single mother who has children, his entire estate plan is compromised. If he passes away, those assets are utilized to support his widow and, indirectly, her non-biological children. His life savings, intended for his own future or his blood relatives, are diverted to sustain a family structure he only joined later in life. You risk your legacy, your retirement, and your autonomy for a relationship built on strategic need rather than authentic partnership. The 8 traps, viewed collectively, demonstrate an undeniable pattern. Dating a single mother with an extensive history is not a relationship of shared building, but an expensive act of strategic recruitment. The man is selected not for who he is, but for what he provides: stability, resources, legal commitment, and a biological clock solution. The psychological reality is that the older a woman gets, the more intense the biological and marketplace pressure becomes, forcing her to seek immediate and high-level commitment from men who represent stability, the men she overlooked in her 20s. When resources are the primary driver of the relationship, the man must understand that his worth is defined by his output, not his character. This knowledge often leads to the core resentment that poisons these marriages. The man resents the unilateral obligation and the absorption of external costs. The woman resents the necessity of settling for a stable provider, when her true desire might still linger for the excitement of her past relationships. This inherent misalignment guarantees high friction and low fulfillment. The crucial distinction, which must be internalized, is this. When a woman with an established family structure seeks a partner, she is seeking a primary resource manager for a venture she launched years ago. Your role is fundamentally subordinate to the existing family unit. You are expected to prioritize their needs, absorb their debts, financial and emotional, and compromise your future potential to secure her present stability. Do not evaluate her performance. Evaluate the structure of her life. Does her life structure require a financial rescuer? True partnership is built on mutual contribution, shared vision, and a relationship that elevates both individuals without one side being perpetually obligated to solve the other's historical problems. Commitment to a ready-made family is rarely a choice of elevation. It is often a choice of absorption, where your life becomes an addendum to hers. You are owed the truth about the transaction you are considering. Choose a partnership where you are genuinely chosen, not strategically settled for. This perspective should give you the necessary clarity to move forward with informed caution. Now, let us confirm the universality of this experience. To gauge the severity of the financial pressures and psychological settlement dynamics we've discussed, I want to hear from you directly. Should it be financial liability acquired, settlement option, or something else? Drop your preferred phrase suggestion in the comments right now, and let's see which definition resonates most strongly with the collective experience. You know that ignoring reality is the fastest path to financial ruin and emotional pain. So, take action now. Hit the subscribe button and the like button. We are dedicated to providing the raw, unfiltered analysis you need to navigate these complex dynamics. And trust me, what we have planned next is a direct extension of this analysis, delving even deeper into the specific legal mechanisms that empower these financial liabilities against men. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and prepare for the next level of essential knowledge that mainstream culture actively works to suppress.